invited to my first SM camp back in 2019. So I really flew to Seoul without knowing much about K-pop. I went there. I ended up working at the SM studios for about 10 days, just learning about the music, like the song structures, the chords, the melodies, everything about K-pop, and I completely fell in love during that trip. So I took about 6 months after that first camp to learn and just immerse myself in K-pop, listening to every song I could find every day, analyzing the structures, all the changes, the melodies. So it was a process to really understand what it took to make a K-pop song. I think the most important, always for me, is having a strong gimmick. Just growing up in France, learning about electronic music with all the headbangers, like we talked about, artists over there, and then moving to Houston, where the urban hip hop scene is super strong. I've tried to take on, everything that I've loved from all the places that I've been to, and merge them into one. And K-pop, just in general, which is something I absolutely love about K-pop, is just how it merges so many genres together within the same song. You could go from an urban verse into a pop pre-chorus, going into an EDM drop, with it sounding still coherent. So yeah, I think dynamic within the song is very important. Ups and downs, moments where some of the members that could belt or show their range, can come in, and also some moments where obviously the rappers, can show off their flows, and just so much dynamic, I think is super important. And then 6 months later was my second camp, where to me was the most successful, because that's where so many songs came out of that camp. Dem Joints was there as well in the next room, working on so many of the songs that came out recently, like Kick It, many other songs. But I was in the next room working on Super M. 100. I did Kickback for Wavy. Obviously, Super M's 100 was a big moment for me. Um, that song came from the song camp, and I specifically wanted to write this song with my great friend Andy Love, for them. They had released their first mini album first, so everybody kind of knew their sound and what they were aiming for, and obviously such a massive project of putting all those insanely talented members together to create one super group. It was my definitely a big target of mine to write for them. So we wrote 100, and that was definitely a big moment for me in my career, knowing that it was going to be a single for them, and seeing this insane music video and like how massive it was. That was really good. And then just I definitely have to mention 11 by Ive, which I did some production work as well. But this was, I think, a shifting point in my mixing, in my career as a mixer as well. Definitely one of my proudest mix so far, because I tried to bring a new sound, especially with the vocals being so dry, no reverb, no delays. If you listen to it, everything is just raw, and I really wanted to portray that in the song. So I think it's still to this day one of my favorite mix. With songwriting and producing, there's this kind of pressure that comes with it, of okay, every day I need to get to the studio and I need to write a great song, and not every day you're going to have the same inspiration. So yeah, there's this kind of pressure of always needed to renew yourself and find new sounds, and just write great songs in general. And then some days, which I love, is just I can do what I love and what I'm good at with mixing, for example, where it's less pressure creatively, because you're given the song. My job is just to make it sound good. So I think it's a great balance. Yeah, absolutely love all the UAD stuff. I probably wouldn't do a mix without the Culture Vulture somewhere in there. Usually it's my go-to for bass and 808. It just adds so much grit and low end, and yeah, it just rounds it up so well. I love that plugin. I'm a big fan of the UAD 1176, of course, on vocals, LA2A. Yeah, the UAD stuff is amazing. for sure. Other than that, I love, because I'm the type to have like every plugin in the world that's been released. So obviously I probably haven't opened like a third of it. You know, they're just sitting there on my laptop. So sometimes just picking a VST that I never really used and just, you know, opening it up and just see how it sounds and go through presets. Another thing I love is just starting with effects already on like a virtual instrument. So like I would open up, I don't know, Serum or Omnisphere or something, but I would put Decapitator, for example, at 100%, you know, distorted, and then go through presets with that on. Makes you hear sounds that, you know, you've never heard before, which is what I've done for Bay 173 Dash. You know, that main vocal thing was just one of the vocal preset, you know, but it had so much distortion that I had put on, that it gives you a different approach to playing certain sounds, I think. Hardwares, I would say my SSL Fusion. I especially love the vintage drive, you know, just to give a little bit of saturation. It just makes everything warmer and kind of glues everything together. And the stereo image also module is incredible in this. So I would definitely mention my SSL Fusion. I recently got the Bus Plus as well, which is so versatile. I absolutely love it. It gives you that sound, that classic SSL compression 4K sound, but yeah, also having the dynamic EQ, which is incredible. And I think that with the Fusion works so well together. And yeah, I checked out the Footprint 01, which I ended up getting. Um, and yeah, it just took it to a whole other level for me. Like the clarity, the stereo image, the dynamic was just, you know, incredibly good. So yeah, I didn't think twice with getting them, and it's really, I think, taken my mixes to the next level, as far as just being able to hear exactly how things sounds, and you know, and what your every little move that you're doing, you can hear it, and it translates so well. So yeah, even with production, you know, you don't have to go all the way to mixing, but just when you produce and you're picking sounds and going through 1,000 snares or 1,000 kicks, you know, just hearing the low end so well, because I personally believe that with the Footprint you don't even need a subwoofer, because the low end is just so good. It's improved my production as well by just hearing sounds just exactly as they are. And my Dangerous converters, of course, absolutely love, and they give me like such a clean, transparent sound. And for the 80 plus, I just love the transformer knob, you know, that adds a little bit more color, and I just love the sound of the clipping, and it has the safeguard clip, you know, button as well, which I love. That when you print your mixes, you're still not hitting the red, you know, digitally, although you are on the analog piece, which is amazing. I love the color that it gives. So yeah, just the Convert 2 and the 80 plus, I think, just work so well together for me. And then there's certain hardwares that I don't think are not quite there yet. Even SSL, you know, has released an incredible suite of their Fusion plugin, which I used to use before. But then when I get the actual Fusion hardware, I was like, okay, there is something more to the analog piece, you know, than just plugins. It just has this three-dimensional feel, and obviously the headroom that you get in hardware, you can push things much louder, without the same digital clipping that you would get, you know, in the back.